Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Rixson. Not much to see there, really. It's just 5458. The Rixson 5458626 left-hand flush mounting bracket is what they call this. It's clearly handed because the holes that you need to attach the what would be otherwise the jamb portion are asymmetrical in this sort of application. So that's why you're required to buy them by hand. And this video is to not only show you the dimensional properties of the item, but to tell you about where it's used. It weighs 0.58 pound, at least it does with its 4 fasteners. There are 4 of these. My guess is that they're 1/4 20, flathead Phillips, whatever, 5/8 length, something in that range. Overall width of the mounting bracket, 3.5 inch. Overall height, I would say, 1.5 inches. The depth looks like it's about 1 inch. Now the question is, where would you use this? Well, you'll end up discovering that if you get, and this client may have, they ordered this bracket, you end up ordering the overhead stop holder multifunction unit, and you stand there scratching your head saying, I don't see how I can install this because of the unusual door application or the less common. Let's talk about it right now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, where you're going to use this is going to be specifically, the factory calls out 3 applications. There's really just 2. When you're going to be installing the unit onto a door that has a flush transom panel. Could be steel, could be wood, whatever. Very likely wood. This is for the 8 and 9 series units. Probably be interior applications. The door and the transom panel will be flush with each other. It's as if you had just one tall door, basically, and you're going to be mounting this material on the push side of that opening. Those applications are done one of two ways. The door and frame are either flush or they're rabbeted. There's a rabbet in the transom. There is a symmetrical matching rabbet in the door. And when the door closes under the transom panel, that is sealed off nice and clean. Yes, there's a horizontal line, but it will sure work to discourage infiltration of light, even sound, particulate, etc. A rabbeted top rail and a rabbeted bottom and a rabbeted transom panel would be considered pretty typical for that application. And then, to even take that conversation further, you would also, if you're specifying doors like that, or if you're ordering them, or if you're out in the wild and you see that, what you'll find is you'll have the veneer of the door and the panel to be specified. They can be end matched, okay, where the grain looks as if they're matched right at the end and may appear to be symmetrical, as if you took a book that had identical symmetrical information on it and spread it open, and that's what the veneer would look like. It could just be manufactured. Let's say you had 7 6 doors and 1'8" panels. You could have a 9-foot sheet of veneer and it will all be continuous. Look very nice there. So that's another situation where you'll run into that stuff. Applying surface-mounted hardware in those applications probably doesn't suit the designer's aesthetic when we are looking at or considering how the veneer may run. You might want to consider an alternate mounting method, like completely concealed, using a different series, one that's not surface-mounted. You might want to hide the hardware. But, for a lot of applications, hollow metal door with a transom panel in a trucking, an LTL carrier's terminal somewhere, where they're just putting in steel doors and frames. It needs to be heavy-duty, durable, less expensive, but equipped with the proper hardware so that it will work correctly, whether it be a library or the aforementioned, driver's rest area at a trucking terminal, etc. So 2 applications. On the push side, when you have a flush door, a flush transom panel, or on the pull side. So if you needed to mount this to the pull side, The problem with the pull side is you don't have the soffit of the frame to attach your jam bracket to. So now you've got to have something that will serve as that, and that would be this application. Let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at the supporting information. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Here is the item that we are looking at, and we do have some images listed down below. Let's take a look at those. There it is in its packaging. I do rarely say things that are less than positive during these videos, but I will when I believe the manufacturer ought to be doing it better. These screws are just packaged loose inside of here, and there is definitely indication on the hardware that there's been unintentional contact. The screw should be in a separate package. That's the bottom line. Rixson's sister company, Rockwood, does an exceptional job at insulating the metal parts from each other. Something is going to scratch. I don't know where this is manufactured, but my guess is that there's thousands upon thousands of miles on this hardware before it gets into your hands. So I'd like for them to insulate those screws. You're paying for finished hardware, not hardware that's, you know, rough industrial hardware. There's that evidence there and there. Possibly that as well, but that appears to be finished over. But these blemishes, while they're superficial, they exist. They don't need to exist. There's your bracket shown close up. Now they say that this is 626. My magnet tells me that it's thoroughly non-magnetic, so that means that it's made of brass. That would be as if you were looking at it upside down. Would probably be far better to show that. Like this. You know, if you were standing on a step stool and looking at the face of the door, you know, you're probably going to see that. I'm also concerned about that, the location of that screw hole with those holes being shown. Top view, so to speak. End view, again, shown on its end. It should probably be rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. We'll get those images flipped around so they look a little more natural. And there are the fasteners that are included. Extended description information down below. This is a left hand. They are handed when they were being installed in this fashion. And now there is a link below this video to the cut sheet, and here it is. The cut sheet is literally just a reference to where the brackets are mentioned in the product brochure. So here's our 5458, or 5459, the opposite hand. Let's read this. When surface-mounted units are mounted, I'm going to read it a little differently. Surface-mounted unit, I think it's easier to digest. Surface-mounted unit on the push side on a rabbited door. Okay. So the 8 or the 9 series this works with is our surface-mounted units. When you're putting them on the push side of the door, and that door happens to have a rabbited top rail and a matching rabbited bottom rail in the transom. Or you have a flush door and transom, again on the push side. So this is all just one method, regardless of it being rabbited or not, push side transom application. The other way is, or in a reverse installation, meaning on the pull side of the door, you need a special bracket. Turns out it's a 5458 or 5459, though not all models can be installed in this fashion. You can't install their concealed model in this fashion. I would imagine you can't, and here's the product catalog, by the way. And indeed, we've scrolled up to the 8 HD series, that model with the elbow, and I am thinking to myself, well, that won't work on a pull side, and it doesn't, naturally. And it states here, single acting doors, push side mounting only. So make sure that your model will mount on the pull side. You know, the standard 8 series, you know, is, or the 9 series, I should say, is going to be able to be mounted on either side. And when we look at this, you can start to internalize and figure it out. But speaking of internalizing and figuring it out, in the product catalog on the 3rd page, I think, nope, 4th page. So they literally give us the answer key to the test. So we were talking about what they call method 2 and method 3. It's the same method. There's no difference except that this is rabbited and this is non-rabbited. Okay, and then of course your pull side mount. Okay, so that's where you're going to use these brackets. Overhead door stops and holders are among the most difficult hardware when it comes to nuances, whether it be learning the School of Hard Knocks, learning how they must be specified based on the method of hanging, what the maximum degree opening for a door is, which happens to be 110 degree, by the way. You won't see a template for any overhead stops and holders that shows you a chart past 110 because it doesn't exist. Learning the side on which you're going to mount something and learning the hard way that, well, you know, this is here's the application. This is an auditorium. And this is this is probably not a good example. This is the auditorium, but it's not in a path of a path of egress. You probably want all your hardware on the opposite side, you know, or it could be that same auditorium that you were leading out to an anteroom. So this would be on the interior back of house. My point is, when you're thinking about where to put the hardware, think about where you want to see the hardware, meaning, or vis-a-vis where you don't want to see the hardware. And the prime example that I give of that scenario is men's and women's restroom in a restaurant. Door swing into the restaurant. Swing into the lavatories. Usually, right? Not always, but usually. I want the hardware on the inside of the bathroom. I don't want to see that from my finished client side. Is where I would prefer to have it. You do have to make sure that the closer is going to fit, meaning if you have a left hand and a right hand door, that when the door is in the 90-degree position, it's parallel to the wall, and the distance from the inside of the door to the inside of the wall is extremely small. You may not be able to fit your door closer body there. I've seen, preparations done in walls to accept the body of the closer because that dimension was so tight. Just to kind of illustrate what I'm saying, you have, okay, here is the walkway. Okay, you have sorry, this is not very much to scale. You've got a door. That's your men's room. Here's your women's restroom. If this dimension in here is too small to accept that closer, you're going to have to put that on the push side. So that's what I'm driving at there. But that's a primary example of, where you're going to want to have, that sort of information. To understand what you're dealing with. Okay, so that covers this portion of illustrating what the material is used for. While we are on the screen view, there is a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page. When you click on that, you'll be able to pull up not only all of the Rixson products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Let's dive into the website just quickly, and let's take a look at templates, checkmate stops and holders. Let's expand that. Let's look at the 9 series, heavy duty surface mounted. Here's a template. Okay, and that's what this item looks like. It's always going to be shown, in a push side standard frame application. So when you don't have the soffit of the frame to receive that jam portion, that's where you're going to use this bracket. As I had noted earlier, you won't see anything, a chart that has greater than 110 degree. It doesn't exist. As I had said earlier, you do have to incorporate the means of how you've hung the door into all of your templating. Word to the wise, if you're using a concealed hinge like Sauce or Tectus or McKinney, they make those, that's sister company to Rixson, or Sugatsuni, that has to be specified because the templates might have to be special made for that application. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. In conclusion, this video is just to beleaguer the points, the finer points of the 54-58 mounting bracket for the Rixson overhead stop holder. The name Rixson is utterly synonymous with certain products. I think mostly it's because they probably had a major hand in inventing the entire product category. We have some really old catalogs on that manufacturer's page that you would be able to review in order to, that's all it takes, in order to review for how many decades pivots have been around. Rixson is also known for floor closers. They're the name that is most synonymous with floor closers. And I think the reason for that ubiquity of the product line and how much a synonym the name Rixson is for floor closer and pivot is because they've been doing it since, I don't know at what year in the 19th century their first catalog came out, but it's definitely a long time ago in that range. Any questions on the 54-58 flush mounting bracket, left hand, or any other Rixson product, please feel free to reach out to us. Obviously, finishes can be done as well to match your hardware. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please subscribe and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.